what you think a zombie movie is. Hopping monsters and Taoist priests battling with magic. Wrong. A zombie siege during the Qianlong era might completely upend everything you thought you knew about life and death. Now, forget every zombie film you've ever seen. Empty your mind, and come with me to the 37th year of Qianlong's reign, 1772 AD in Liqing County, Jinan Prefecture, Shandong. You're no longer a modern-day viewer. You are Chen Mo, a young apprentice coroner working in the county yamen. And how does a zombie story begin? A moonless, windy night, a desolate tomb in the wilderness, shadows flitting around? No, that would be underestimating the ancients and the true horror of what happened. In the summer of 1772, in Liqing, Jinan Prefecture, the air was thick and oppressive, soaked in humidity that weighed on people's hearts. The shrill cry of cicadas grated on nerves, while the stench of decaying earth from the mass grave west of the city grew ever stronger and more nauseating. After nightfall, the city quickly fell silent. Only the urgent pounding of the night watchman's clapper echoed through the streets like a death chant. Rumors spread like plague. The white-haired monster that prowled the nights had returned. This time, it tore out the throat of old Li, the watchman, spilling blood halfway down the stone-paved street. Your name is Chen Mo, a young apprentice coroner in Liqing County. You've been training under your master, Lin Zhengde, for 3 years. Old Li's body now lies on the cold stone slab of the mortuary. Your fingers are icy as you grip the sharp knife your master handed you. The wounds are on the neck, 2 black punctures, deep to the bone. The surrounding flesh is grotesquely shriveled and sunken, as if all the blood had been drained from the body in an instant. The corpse is unnaturally pale, with a sickly blue-gray hue beneath the skin. Fighting back nausea, you look up at your master. Lin Zhengde, known for his unshakable composure, now stands with furrowed brows. Deep lines crisscross his grave face, and in his eyes, you catch a fleeting hint of fear. "More," he rasped, pointing to the punctures. "See the spacing of these bite marks? No ordinary beast could do this. And the condition of the body, it's just like the ancient texts describe. A zombie?" You blurt out, your voice trembling before you even realize it. A cold draft stirs through the mortuary, a flickering candle casting twisted shadows on the mottled walls, as if a third presence were silently watching. "Silence," your master barked, but his eyes confirmed your suspicion. He stepped into a corner, pulled a dusty wooden chest from the shadows, and retrieved a tattered, yellowed parchment scroll from its bottom. White hair covers the body, eyes red as cinnabar, fangs and claws sharp as blades, feeds on blood, wields monstrous strength, impervious to ordinary weapons. He read aloud, each word stabbing into your chest like an icicle. "If such a thing appears and is not quickly destroyed, the more blood it drinks, the stronger and more savage it becomes eventually. A disaster." Fear coiled around you like icy vines. That night, you couldn't sleep. Every rustle of wind outside your window made you jolt upright. You thought of your late parents. Of your only surviving family, your 16-year-old sister Ayuan, who lived in Sanlipu, just outside the West Gate. That mass grave was far too close to her home. Terror fueled action. At first light, you begged leave from your master, packed the few silver bits you'd saved, and rushed towards Sanlipu. You had to bring Ayuan into the city. But what awaited you was a courtyard door left ajar, and an overwhelming stench of blood that made you retch. You burst inside and saw a sight that shattered your soul. Ayuan's small body was curled on the cold mud floor. 2 dark punctures marked her neck, Her once rosy cheeks were now paper white. Those almond eyes that always sparkled with laughter were wide open in a frozen scream of terror. In her hand, she clutched a broken peachwood hairpin, the birthday gift you had given her just last month. Nearby, a few sprigs of dewy herbs lay scattered. You recognized them immediately. Purple perilla leaves, used to treat your chronic cough. "Ayuan!" Your scream tore through your throat. You dropped to your knees, cradled her cold body, and the tears burst forth, mixed with a tidal wave of hatred. She had gone out early to gather herbs for you, and paid with her life. That monster, that white-haired zombie, it took away the only warmth you had left in this world. Your crushing grief turned to searing rage, incinerating every last trace of reason. The calm of a coroner's apprentice, the dread of undead legends all reduced to ashes in your fury. Gently, you tucked the blood-stained fragment of the peachwood hairpin into your robe like sealing a blood oath. Ayuan's death must be avenged with that creature's life. Eyes red with rage, you stormed back to the county yamen, barging straight into the magistrate's study, ignoring the yamen runners trying to stop you. You laid bare Ayuan's death, old Lee's gruesome end, and several other strange, unreported deaths. Your voice hoarse, you demanded that troops be sent to wipe out the western mass grave. "Chenmo! Have you gone mad?" the magistrate thundered, his beard trembling with fury as he slammed the table. "One should not speak of ghosts and monsters. This talk of zombies is utter nonsense, clearly the work of bandits. I grieve for your sister, truly, but if you spread panic and stir the masses, I will not hesitate to punish you by law. Take him away." The cold slap of reality hit like ice water. The authorities were useless. Master Lin Jingda looked at your grief-stricken face and sighed deeply. He handed you a heavy cloth bundle. "More. My condolences for Ayuan. I know your heart burns for vengeance, but this creature is beyond you." Inside the bundle were realgar powder, glutinous rice, inked chalk lines, and a few talisman strips he had acquired long ago. These might keep you alive for a while. Remember, avoid it at all costs. Do not confront it head on. Your fingers were numb as you took the bundle. Your master's concern was sincere, but his helplessness was just as clear. How could these trinkets ever kill a beast of such strength? You bowed deeply, turned, and walked away with nothing left in your eyes but resolve. In the days that followed, you endured your duties at the yamen by day. But at night, like a ghost, you lurked alone at the edge of the western mass grave. You set traps with trip ropes, scattered realgar and glutinous rice, trying to catch any sign of the monster. Like a wounded lone wolf, driven by hatred, you hunted without rest. Days later, near a collapsed ancient tomb overgrown with brambles, you finally discovered a hidden cave entrance. The cave mouth reeked of rot and something sickly sweet, indescribable. Thick white hair stained with dried, dark red blood lay scattered on the ground. Your heart pounded. This was it. Gritting your teeth, you lit a fire striker. One hand gripped a sharp wood cutting blade, your only weapon, while the other clutched the talisman from your master. You bent low and crept into the narrow, death-scented darkness of the cave. The cave twisted downward, the air foul and sticky. By the faint light of your fire striker, you saw deep claw marks gouged into the walls, as if some beast had scraped them out with raw force. Torn bits of cloth and a few pale fragments that looked like human bones lay scattered across the floor. Fear coiled around your spine like a cold serpent, but the image of Ayuan's lifeless face burned in your mind, pushing you forward step by step. The cave suddenly opened into a wide, natural stone chamber. And there it was, curled deep in the shadows of the chamber, just like in the legends. A hunchbacked figure, nearly 10 feet tall, its body covered in coarse, needle-like white hair that shimmered with a cold metallic sheen in the firelight. Even while asleep or lying in wait, its blood-red eyes glowed like two frozen embers of burning blood, radiating pure malice and hunger. Its claws, black and curved like sickles forged of iron, were embedded deep into the rock beneath it. A nauseating stench of blood, rotting flesh, and raw earth hit you in the face, nearly making you faint. This was the monster that killed Aiwan. Hatred surged, overwhelming your fear. You forgot your master's warnings, forgot all danger. Only one thought exploded in your mind. Kill it! Avenge Ayuan! With a roar, you hurled all your strength into a strike, swinging the woodcutter's blade straight at the creature's skull. The blade ripped through the air, carrying all your grief and despair. Clang! A sharp, metallic crash rang out. Sparks flying. Pain shot through your palms. The blade had struck something as hard as stone and bounced off violently. The backlash knocked you off balance. You nearly fell, and those blood-red eyes snapped open. Cold, savage, utterly inhuman, nothing but primal bloodlust. Like twin blood moons, they locked onto you instantly. The tiny intruder in its lair. A wave of killing intent surged toward you like a physical tide, suffocating. You felt your blood start to freeze. It let out a low, raspy snarl like a bellows tearing at the seams. The ceiling shuddered, loose stones raining down. With terrifying speed for such a massive frame, the beast sprang up. A gust of foul wind followed as two black claws, sharp as death's scythes, slashed through the air, heading straight for your face. Too fast, you had no time to react. Death loomed. Just as those claws were about to strike your skull, the broken peachwood hairpin Ayuan had left behind, tucked in your chest, suddenly flared to life with a warm yet fierce emerald glow. The light formed a thin shield right in front of you. Scree! A shrill screech rang out as the zombie's claws struck the shield. It was as if they'd hit a branding iron. Acrid green smoke hissed up. The creature let out a pained, furious roar and yanked its claws back. The shield flickered violently, the green glow rapidly dimming. It could clearly only withstand one blow, but that moment of disruption gave you barely a breath to act. Survival instinct kicked in. You scrambled backward toward the cave entrance, flinging your master's realgar powder and glutinous rice behind you in desperation. Roar! The zombie's howl grew even more frenzied. The realgar and rice seemed to scorch it, slowing its charge. The air filled with the acrid smell of burning flesh and sharp, crackling sounds, but the pain it felt only made it angrier. It barreled through the crude trip ropes you'd set, demolishing everything in its path as it chased you down with unstoppable force. You ran for your life. Each thunderous footstep behind you sounded like a war drum, and the stench of death clung to your heels. As you burst from the cave, you didn't hesitate. You hurled the talisman you'd been clutching, slick with sweat, behind you. Strike! The paper burst into flame midair, a flash of golden light shooting at the zombie. It struck its chest, flaring with a small burst of fire. The creature halted abruptly, letting out a low growl of pain and wariness. Its red eyes locked onto the burning talisman with visible hesitation. But the pause lasted barely a second. The white hairs on its body stood on end like steel spikes. With even greater fury, it charged through the burning light. You tumbled and scrambled your way out of the graveyard, never once looking back, running headlong toward the city. Only when you slammed the door of your small room in the yamen shut behind you and collapsed to the floor did your limbs begin to tremble. Cold sweat soaked your clothes, pain stabbed through your left shoulder. In the dim oil lamplight, you saw your sleeve was torn, and beneath it, 3 claw marks cut deep to the bone. The flesh around the wound had turned a strange, greenish black, spreading fast. A faint, putrid stench wafted from it. Numbness crept from your shoulder toward your chest in icy waves. Your mind flashed back to the words on your master's parchment scroll. When corpse poison enters the body, numbness comes first, then cold, then the craving for blood until transformation is complete, like falling into a frozen abyss. You've been infected. Terror gripped you. Become a monster like that? No, never. You thought of your master, only he might still have a way. Clutching your burning, numbing shoulder, you stumbled through the dark to Master Lin Zhengde's quarters. It was late. His door was ajar, a faint yellow glow spilling out. You pushed it open, gasping. "Master, help me! That creature scratched me, the corpse poison!" The words froze in your throat. What you saw inside turned your blood to ice. Your master stood in the center of the room, back facing the door. His usually neat topknot had come undone, white hair hanging in disarray. His back was hunched, shoulders trembling violently in silence. His arms hung limp at his sides. His fingers, no, those weren't human fingers anymore. The nails were black, sharp, curved like talons. In the lamplight, you clearly saw something bulging and writhing beneath the skin of his neck and shoulders, under the faded cotton robe he always wore. Tufts of thick, white hair pushed through the seams of his collar. At the sound of your voice, he whipped around. The face you knew so well, stern yet kind, was twisted in agony, struggling, overwhelmed by a heartbreaking despair. His eyes were no longer clear and wise, but bloodshot and savage. Deep within his pupils, 2 faint red glows flickered like dying flames. He seemed to be using every ounce of will to resist something inside him. His jaw clenched, grinding audibly, white froth tinged with blood bubbling from his lips. "More!" he forced out in a rasping, broken voice like sandpaper on stone. "Go! Get out!" "Master?" You staggered back, slamming into the doorframe. You stared in disbelief at the hellish scene before you. The man who taught you to read bones, to seek truth, to live with honor, the man who took you in after your parents died, who raised you like a son, he was the white-haired zombie. In that split second, countless fragments of memory came crashing together in your chaotic mind. Your master's deep knowledge of zombie lore, the ancient parchment scroll, his uncanny familiarity with the mass grave's terrain, the complicated look in his eyes when he handed you those so-called temporary protection items, and even the timing of old Li and Ayuan's deaths, which seemed to coincide with his solitary excursions. So that was it. The so-called white-haired monster was none other than your most respected master. He had been desperately suppressing the corpse poison inside him all along. That parchment scroll didn't just record information about zombies, it likely chronicled his own infection as well. The talismans and objects he gave you weren't meant for you to hunt the monster. They were his desperate hope that you might survive an encounter. His solitary nighttime outings may have been his attempts to find ways to suppress the corpse poison, or perhaps, on the verge of losing control, he instinctively distanced himself from people. But in the end, when he finally lost that control, tragedy struck. Why? Your voice broke, hoarse and cracked under the weight of betrayal and disbelief. Your master, or rather, the zombie Lin Zhengde, had a flicker of humanity still burning in his eyes. Pain and guilt tore through him. Ancient tomb accident poison can't suppress. He howled in broken, guttural gasps. His body trembled violently, the writhing under his skin growing faster, more white hair bursting through his clothing. The crimson in his eyes rapidly devoured the last traces of clarity. Yuan, I didn't want to go. That final go had become a beast's roar. He suddenly raised those twisted claws high, his eyes now entirely consumed by bloodlust. He lunged at you, his own disciple, the one he treated as a son. The foul wind of death rushed toward you again. Your heart twisted in agony, but your body, already numb and slow from the infection, couldn't move. His now monstrous claws were about to tear you apart. At the last possible moment, a sharp cry pierced the night. "Demon! Cease your violence!" A yellow talisman shot through the window like lightning, striking Lin Jingda's raised claw dead on. Boom! A blast of talisman fire erupted 10 times stronger than anything you'd ever summoned. The zombie let out a painful screech, flung backward by the blast, crashing into the furniture. A figure in a cyan Taoist robe, holding a peachwood sword and with sharp, clear features, vaulted through the window and landed squarely in front of you. It was the exorcist you had secretly paid handsomely to summon from a neighboring prefecture, the renowned Taoist master Qing Xuanzi. "Retreat now, young man. This creature is nearly fully turned, its ferocity knows no bounds." Master Qing Xuanzi's eyes locked onto the snarling zombie, his peachwood sword whirling in a dazzling arc, faint lightning crackling around it. You scrambled into a corner, a sliver of hope sparking in your chest. The Taoist master's skills were indeed profound. His feet moved in ritual steps, chanting incantations, the sword leaving glowing trails in the air. Talisman after talisman exploded into golden flashes and thunderous blasts, forcing the vicious zombie back step by step, its body smoking with scorch marks and charred streaks. The zombie's enraged howls shook dust from the rafters, but for now, it couldn't break through the master's defense. "Now!" Master Qing Xuanzi saw his chance when a 5-thunder talisman struck, paralyzing the zombie's body. His eyes gleamed with resolve. He bit the tip of his tongue and spat blood onto the peachwood sword. The ancient blade erupted with light, humming with sword song. At the tip, a blinding red-gold glow condensed. "Heaven and earth be boundless. I call upon the power of the cosmos, perish, demon." The Taoist shouted, lunging forward like an arrow loosed from the bowstring. The peachwood sword flew straight at the zombie's heart with unstoppable force. It was his ultimate move, one that poured in a lifetime of cultivation. The air itself trembled with the sound of thunder. The sword's sun-charged tip was about to pierce the zombie's heart when suddenly, everything changed. The seemingly paralyzed creature's crimson eyes blazed with violent light. In an impossible burst of speed faster than thought, it twisted aside. The golden red sword flashed past its chest, carving a deep, charred wound down to the bone but missing the heart. At that same instant, the zombie's left claw, which had been hidden, waiting, lashed out like a coiled serpent. Shk! It pierced Master Qing Xuanzi's unguarded chest like slicing through tofu, the black talon bursting from his back. Blood sprayed like a fountain. The Taoist's forward motion froze. Shock overtook his expression, replacing his determined calm. Then came the crushing pain. He looked down at the claw, buried in his chest, opened his mouth, but only blood frothed out. His glowing sword clattered to the floor, its light fading instantly. The zombie let out a savage, triumphant roar, yanked its claw free. Master Qing Xuanzi swayed, the light in his eyes already fading. With deep regret and bitter clarity in his final breath, he collapsed into the spreading pool of blood. His last glance seemed to fall on you in the corner. His lips moved silently, as if saying 2 words. Xin Yan. Heart's eye. All hope shattered. Your strongest ally had fallen. lured in and slain by your master's cunning feint, a fatal trap traded for blood. Cold despair drowned you. If even Qing Xuanzi had died, who else could possibly stop this rampaging white-haired zombie? The creature flicked warm blood from its claws, its crimson eyes brimming with hunger and violence, once again locking onto you. The sword wound on its chest was charred black, deep enough to expose bone. Thick, dark green ichor oozed out. It had clearly been badly injured. But instead of weakening, it was now even more maddened by bloodlust. It growled and took one step after another toward you. The shadow of death was so thick, it felt solid. Your back was pressed against the cold wall, nowhere left to run. Your left shoulder throbbed with deep, icy numbness. That urge to feed the corpse poison swelled in your mind like a parasite, growing clearer and more overwhelming. Then Qing Xuanzi's final silent words flashed before your eyes. Xinyan. The heart's eye sees what the eyes cannot it perceives. In that instant, enlightenment struck like lightning. Your master had told you this 1,000 times. In corpse examination, the key is observation, not just of the surface, but the cause, the nature, the change. Only when you see with your heart can you pierce the fog and touch the truth. You shut your eyes, no longer looking at the hideous monster, no longer sensing its murderous aura. All your spirit, all your will sank inward to see, and you saw it. At the core of that savage, bloodthirsty red light within the storm of corpse energy, a faint, stubborn thread of Lin Zhengda's essence pulsed. It was filled with pain, struggle, endless regret, and deep worry for you, his apprentice. Like a dying flame in the wind, it flickered under the crushing weight of the corpse aura, but it endured. That was the last shred of your master's humanity, his final resistance against the poison. And it was also the true weakness that Qing Xuanzi's ultimate strike had missed. So, that was it. Your master's heart was his greatest weakness. It was the final stronghold of his humanity, and the one true fatal point of the zombie's body. At that very moment, the zombie's claw came slashing toward you with a rush of foul wind. It was the brink of life and death. You opened your eyes wide. There was no fear left in them, only the resolute determination to go down together. Instead of retreating, you threw yourself forward with every last ounce of your strength, charging straight into that deadly claw. The move caught the zombie completely off guard. It hesitated slightly, the claw that had been aimed at your head pausing for a fraction of a second. And that split-second pause was everything. As you lunged into its chest, your right hand shot into your robes like lightning and gripped the blood-stained peachwood hairpin Ayuan had left behind. Your left hand clutched tightly the sharp autopsy knife you had hidden in your sleeve, ready for suicide if all else failed. "Master," you screamed, with every last drop of life inside you. The cry tore through your throat like a blade dipped in blood. It struck the zombie's mind like a thunderclap, smashing into the core of consciousness smothered by corpse energy. Its red eyes contracted sharply, the violent glow in them trembling. That faint thread of Lin Zhengda surged like cold water thrown into boiling oil, thrashing, boiling, rebelling. His massive body began to shake uncontrollably, and he let out a howl filled with pain, confusion, and overwhelming sorrow. His raised claw, poised to tear you apart, froze midair. Now, with no hesitation, your left hand plunged the autopsy blade into your own left chest, straight toward your heart. Shk! The blade sliced into flesh. Agony exploded, but this wasn't suicide. You'd precisely controlled the depth to pierce only the muscle above the heart. Scalding, hot blood, rich with life force, gushed forth. At the same time, your right hand, clutching the peachwood hairpin soaked with Ayuan's blood and now mixed with your own heart's blood, filled with grief, rage, and your final call, drove it like lightning into the zombie's chest, into the scorched wound left by Master Qingxuanzi's thunder talisman strike. That was the very point your heart's eye had seen the core of that faint human essence. The final trace of Master Lin Zhengde's consciousness. Arr! The zombie no. Lin Zhengde let out a soul-shaking, blood-curdling scream like nothing you'd ever heard before. The sound was no longer that of a beast. It was layered with searing agony, a trembling just short of release, and a sorrowful moan like a weight finally lifted. The moment the peachwood hairpin pierced the wound, it was like plunging a red-hot brand into solid ice. Ayuan's blood, your heart's blood. The bond of love and vengeance merged with the purifying, destructive power of peachwood to unleash a tidal force of annihilation. It struck the last vestige of humanity at its core with perfect precision. The massive zombie body jolted as if struck by an invisible hammer. The thick white hair covering its body curled and withered in an instant, turning to ash. Its crimson eyes, like shattered glass, flickered wildly with blood-red light until, with a final exhale that seemed to come from the soul itself, the light faded completely into murky stillness. Its iron-hard body lost all strength and came crashing down like a crumbling mountain. And you, having made that final fateful thrust, felt your strength drain in an instant. Blood gushed from your chest, and the freezing numbness from the corpse poison in your left shoulder flooded your entire body like a rising tide. Your warmth was fading. Your mind sank into a cold, dark sea. You watched that giant corpse fall toward you. You didn't dodge, you couldn't. In the last moment before losing consciousness, you used the last sliver of your will to raise your corpse poisoned, stiffening hand and gently caught your master's falling body. Thud. The heavy body slammed into yours like a collapsing mountain. You were crushed to the ground, blood bursting from your mouth with a metallic taste. Your vision blurred, the world spinning and fading to gray, but your lips curved ever so faintly, an almost invisible smile. Ayuan, Master. It's over. All of it is over. Darkness consumed you. 3 days later, the people of Liking discovered that the dreaded white-haired monster had vanished. At the urging of Master Qingxuanzi's surviving disciples, the authorities gathered yamen runners and brave villagers armed with fire oil and spears to cautiously enter the mass grave outside the west gate. Near the collapsed ancient tomb, hidden by thorns, they found a cave entrance. Inside, the cave reeked of ash and a strange, fishy rot. Deep in the stone chamber, they found a scene that sent chills down their spines, a sight both terrifying and tragic. 2 bodies lay tightly embraced on the ground, as if asleep. One was a massive corpse, half covered in scorched, withered white hair, with a broken peachwood hairpin stabbed deep into a charred wound on its chest. Beneath it lay the body of a young man. The young man's face was pale and gray, lips dark purple. 3 deep claw marks marred his left shoulder, and a stab wound pierced his chest. The blood had long dried. His expression was unnaturally calm, even touched with relief. It took several men to separate the bodies. While moving the young man's corpse, one sharp-eyed yamen runner noticed something clenched tightly in his stiff hand. They pried it open and found a small, blackened scrap of cloth, soaked in dried blood coarse fabric, the same kind old Lin Zhengde always wore. News of it spread through the city, and rumors followed. Some said the apprentice coroner Chen Mo had found the zombie's lair and died taking the monster down a real man. Others claimed his master Lin Zhengde was the zombie, and Chen Mo had sacrificed family for justice. Still others said it was Qing Xuanzi's powerful Taoist magic that had truly wounded the zombie, and Chen Mo had simply delivered the final blow. The chatter eventually faded as officials deliberately downplayed the story. The zombie tale became a topic for idle gossip over tea and leaking, part horror, part marvel, tinged with relief at having survived it all. Only the silent old caretaker newly assigned to the mortuary, while organizing the possessions left behind by Lin Zhengde and Chen Mo, happened to open that tattered parchment scroll. At the very end of the section on zombie behavior, he found a line of tiny, shaky script ink uneven, as if written with the last strength of a dying hand. Corpse poison in the marrow, no cure by medicine. Only heart's blood of kin, merged with peachwood of pure yang, pierced into the heart source, core of remaining humanity. May bring mutual stillness. The old caretaker stared at that line for a long while, then sighed deeply and carefully locked the scroll in the bottom of a chest. Outside, twilight gathered. Li Cheng welcomed another peaceful night. The clack of the night watchman's clapper echoed down the empty streets. As he passed the west gate, he subconsciously picked up his pace, eyes glancing warily toward the now shadowed mass grave beyond. A night breeze swept through, making the wild grass ripple like countless whispers. Deep within the mass grave that buried countless secrets, beside a newly raised, unmarked, lonely grave, a few fresh perilla plants quietly unfurled their tender leaves beneath the moonlight.